A lot of people don't know what something called capital gains is, or and how to reduce your taxes. And it is American to pay your taxes,
Yes.
and or how when a check comes in, what do you do? Listen, I came from a community where we thought you're supposed to put the money under the bed, and cash is a depreciating asset. But I would never open a bank account. Why? Because for some reason I believe the bank is mean and they're going to take my money. No.
What was that moment for you where you thought, you were told no, or you were rejected, or you were made to think that your concept of FUBU and what you were doing? I know your mom mortgaged the house to help get you started, to give you some capital. I know that you did get some support, but what were the moments where you thought maybe this wasn't going to work out for you?
I created my own company, and after about 8 years, I was frustrated. I wasn't getting as far as I could, even though I had all the hype around me, but I didn't know what I didn't know. I went over to some guys who had answered an ad. They interviewed me of doing a manufacturing distribution deal, and I left and I called them back, and at that time was answering machines, and the guy who ended up, discussing it with me didn't answer that answer machine for about 5 months, and I just felt totally defeated and ignored and kind of just stupid. I would go to the Magic Trade Show. I'd already went one time, and the Magic Trade Show was a trade show that we all sell our apparel at. And I would go 6 months later to that trade show, and that guy and his brother would see me walking down the aisle, and they happened to have a booth where they were talking to really big buyers like Macy's and all these people. And one of the biggest buyers in the industry pointed over and said, "Is that the guy with the FUBU shirt?" to his assistant, and said, "Go get him. We have to have that FUBU." Now, I don't remember talking to that person, but I went home. Week later, oh my God, guess who calls me? I answer the phone. He goes, "Hey, why don't you come in and let's do the deal." And I was young, I was scrappy. I thought that I was Mr. Big Entrepreneur, and I negotiated out of ignorance. And I was just I wouldn't have done the deal, but I was like, "You a fucking asshole. You didn't call me back. Now all of a sudden you're calling me. You're full of whatever, whatever, whatever. If I come there, do not waste my time. There better be a deal signed in I don't know how long period of time." Me not knowing a really great deal, we should go through some paperwork, and there should not be yeah, sign this.
Right.
But I got one of the most amazing manufacturing and distribution deals with Samsung Textile Division. Out of that, those two partners of ours, Norman and Bruce Weisfeld, have been like my brothers for the last 30 years. The deal came out of totally of my ignorance and me feeling at the lowest point of my life and negotiating out of ignorance. But they understood where I was coming from at least, and they had empathy, and they educated me on why they did it. Now, being a shark on Shark Tank who gets pitched every day,
Yes.
I wouldn't have answered my calls either. I would have just said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. I'm looking around. Do you mind?" You know what I mean? Is it okay for me to entertain somebody else? But, life is funny. God is good. And, it worked out.
The lens of perspective can sometimes be laser focused, no doubt about that. What is Daymond on Demand? What are we doing now? So people could I'll give you the floor. What is that? Daymond on Demand.
Yeah, so Daymond on Demand. Listen, I think that we're at a great time for people who are, as you see in many things, when people dial back like '08, when things came like Uber and Airbnb. People are creating a lot of businesses now, and with all my books and with all the stuff I do on Shark Tank and everything else, there are a lot of people that feel that they need things a little laid out for them. So what I created was an amazing digital course with all the most commonly asked questions, everything from the difference of a patent to a trademark to how to find funding, where to find funding, when's the right time to find funding. And I put it all together on this course called Daymond on Demand because I want people to learn from my $20 million worth of mistakes. Trust me, you don't want to call future partners and curse them out. Most people right now probably have common sense about that, but I put more technical things in there about how to build a company because a lot of people that I see that I try to invest in, they're not investable. They cannot structurally take in the money. A lot of times that's what happens to people. So Daymond on Demand is all of that bundled into one. It is, it is something I think that is of great, great value that I created because I just realized there's so much misinformation out there. And hopefully, due to all my years of hopefully educating people the right way, they know that I'm going to come to them and give them what they need.
Well, it's not just that, too. I know you talk a lot about financial literacy and how, and I think that's an important thing to mention here as well for people who are trying to, how many people have a good idea, but they may not have the financial literacy, how to connect those dots and make it work, and also understand, what a balance sheet could even look like. So how would you approach that if somebody is trying to become more financially literate?
Yeah, so exactly. Listen, we grew up in a world and in a time when the education system is broken, and financial literacy is something that we should be taught in school, just like we're taught shop. I always say, I'm not sure, Rich, if you or I are going to need to go build a birdhouse, but I promise you we're going to need to balance a checkbook, whether we are running a Fortune 500 company or running a household checkbook. And we don't have financial literacy. So, kids end up going to school and getting out of school at 18 years old and getting to the level where they can now acquire $300,000 or $500,000 in student debt that they won't pay off till they're 45 years old for education they're not really certain that they want to take. So financial literacy is something that is extremely important. It's not how much you make, it's how much you retain. I did something called Black Entrepreneurs Day, had Shaquille O'Neal as one of my great guests, and I wanted people to be, again, vulnerable. And he said when he made his first check, he didn't realize that he had to pay taxes. But,
No,
in school they don't teach us about taxes, though, do they? I mean...
No, I mean, I could make a joke that at LSU they probably didn't take his taxes out of that check either, but I don't want to go there. But or Blue Chips. We saw obviously who he played in Blue Chips. No, but I've been to many rookie symposiums with the NFL. And there are, with the Players Association, back when there was a rookie symposium where all the drafted rookies were in a room together, and at a symposium, there was a balancing of the checkbook breakout session. And a lot of young studs, big men on campus, now hoping to be in the NFL, they didn't know. No idea. Zero.
Yeah. I sometimes go on Clubhouse and I answer questions that people don't know. You know why? Because finances scare people, but they have to deal with them one way or another. And a lot of people don't know what something called capital gains is, or and how to reduce your taxes. And it is American to pay your taxes.
Yes.
And or how, when a check comes in, what do you do? Listen, I came from a community where we thought you're supposed to put the money under the bed, and cash is a depreciating asset, but I would never open a bank account. Why? Because for some reason I believe the bank is mean and they're going to take my money. No, if I screwed up and not paid my taxes and they have to freeze it, that has nothing to do with me. But I would pay 5%. A 5% cost to have my check cash. That means if I'm making $30,000 a year, or let's say I'm making $50,000 a year, $2,500 is just to cash my check. When that's not financial intelligence, because if you put that in the bank over the course of 10 years, in some stocks increasing about 10 to 15% a year, averaging over. That $2,500 is probably going to be probably about $30,000, that you saved. You just spent that on cashing your check. Anyway, financial intelligence is extremely important, whether you're buying widgets or whether you're buying bread, for the home.
So, and then on March 9th, you're already a two-time best-selling author from the New York Times. You got Powershift coming out on March
Paperback.
9th. What's that about? Yeah, Powershift coming out on paperback on March 9th. What do you want people to know about that?
Well, it takes me about a year to write a book. This is my fifth book, and the reason why I write them is not just to write them because I'm dyslexic. It's challenging to write these books, but I write them because whenever people ask me about things, I recommend a book to go read, whether it's me or Tim Ferriss or Malcolm Gladwell, whatever the case is. But I noticed that so many people over the course of the years were like, oh my God, I read all your books, but I don't have power to do that, or somebody got to give me power. So I wrote this book 2 years ago, and you know when it hit? Because this is the anniversary, because this is the paperback. It hit March last year. Bang, as soon as COVID hit.
Sure.
And I'm glad I wrote it because this was all about taking power in your life, being able to shift and being able to find your destiny. So there are four really key components to success, but to negotiating as well. Number one is knowing your why, what you want out of it. Number two is building influence. Number three is to negotiate what's in the best interest for the person on the other side of the table. And number four is how to nurture relationships. Shark Tank has really ruined a lot of people's minds or their perceptions of what a negotiation is. The real world is not like this. Hi, sharks. I'm DAYMOND JOHN, and in 8 minutes you got a deal. It's not like that. The first time you meet somebody, it's the dating period. And guess what? If you don't get a deal, nurturing that relationship, I may recommend you because I like the way that you dealt with me. It may not have been for me at the moment, but I may recommend you to Rich. I may recommend you to 10 other people after that. So there's so many different key things in there, and I've highlighted so many people that I learned from Billie Jean King, who changed the face of sports, to Pitbull, to Kris Jenner, who took three young ladies that, for the most part, you would think can't sing, dance, play a sport, but became number 2 or 3 of the most Googled people on the planet. People like Mark Cuban is in there, the billionaire Mark Cuban, who will show you how to negotiate to empower yourself. So that's what Powershift is. It's coming out. It is March 9th, and it is on paperback, and people can get it anywhere and everywhere. And I promise you, it'll help you change the way that you think about negotiation, because life is not what we accept, it's what we negotiate. And that is a very popular saying, and I love to remind people about that.
It's a great saying. And so before I let you go, I do have to ask you about Shark Tank. The reason why the show is so successful is because people do want to strike it rich. Everybody does think their idea is the best. Everybody does think that their idea could be a game changer, and sometimes they're right. And not only is it just throwing somebody like a guppy in the Shark Tank like that, but it's the sharks who are also ready to eat each other for the good idea that's right in front of them. It works on so many levels. What is it like when the cameras are off and all the sharks are just chilling out, or trying to make deals amongst each other, or arguing over something that just went down? What is it like on that set when the cameras are not rolling, Damon?
Well, generally what happens as soon as the cameras go down, I go and I pull out all the chairs and I nestle all the sharks in their little position, and then I pull out the whiteboard and I teach them another lesson of life. Yes. That's what usually happens. But for the most part, listen, we got so many deals coming through that when we shoot in 2 different pods, so we see 100 people in June and 100 people in September. We shoot 10-hour days, and we only have a half an hour to, as you say, drop a deuce and eat and do whatever the case is. So we are, all that said, we are answering emails and texts and things of that nature. We don't think about the last deal that went through because we know we're preparing for another one. This last season, because we were restrained due to COVID and we hadn't seen anybody for a long time, we were very happy to see each other. Even Kevin O'Leary, I was happy to see him.
Yes, Mr. Happy.
And that's pretty much it. And I think that we do relax. Now, in normal times, we go out. We go out and we have a good time. Sometimes have a dinner and settle in.
Who picks up the check? Who picks up the check? Who picks up the check?
You know what? We realize we all pick it up because we realize that most of the time we pick up the check when we're at most tables, and it feels weird. So we just all pile our cards on the check, and that generally happens. But it is great to see everybody. We've been doing it now 12 years, going on our 13th, and it is amazing. And I'm truly inspired. I keep learning from my older fellow sharks.
No sharks have ever been like, I left this at home. I mean, I'll get the next one. That's never happened, where nobody's ever.
There has been somebody that a card was declined.
Come on.
A card was declined, and it was somebody who it's the last person that I ever think a card would be declined, and it was obviously a reason. And I was like, I'm going to get this one so that I can go down in history saying that I paid for your check. And we probably all know who it is right now when I just said that. But it was the one that I would like to say that for,
Oh, okay. That had to be a great moment where, like, literally you just ate a meal, but now you knew there was a big meal to be made over that card being rejected. That's amazing.
And if you know how the Sharks talk, you could tell in Urine Sports, if he said, whatever, DJ, you know who that is. Well, of course.
That is fantastic. All right. So before I let you go, Damon, I guess, you've given so many great pieces of advice, but if there is somebody out there who is downloading and listening to this pod, as I hope they do, to try and get inspired to just get started, what would you say is the overarching advice that you would give to somebody who is thinking of, either switching tracks or starting with an idea that they think should be and could be a winner, wanting to believe in themselves and feeling vulnerable? What would you say, Damon?
Okay. Depends on the people around you. I want you to know that you can do it, because every single thing that you see in the world started off with one person that had one idea that took one action. So it is doable. Another stat is that if you look at the 1,000 wealthiest people in the world on Forbes, 65% of them are self-made men and women. That means they had no money. The true people who are successful, they take a step forward, they act, and they learn, and then they repeat. Take affordable steps. It does not cost you anything to educate yourself. Do not use that you have to go to this college. Pick up books, listen to this podcast, anything else. Keep your day job. Keep educating yourself. But you got to understand you're going to have to sacrifice something. I slept for 3 hours a night for 5 years working at Red Lobster and working FUBU. But if you do that, then what happens is if you don't bet too much, then you can recover from any mistake that you make. If you educate yourself, you can avoid those mistakes. But you got to keep doing that and finding mentors, because mentors will continue to help you, show you when you're in the right direction. And if you fail, if it's something you love, then you spent time doing something you love. It just didn't work out right now, and maybe you'll start all over again a little more wisely, but you'll be able to recover.
Damon, I really appreciate it. Truly. I love the chat. Love that you were kind enough to say I'll pop on a new pod with me on Just Getting Started. I really appreciate it. Truly.
It is an honor. Are you kidding me? I'm happy to be here. I gotta brag. I'm gonna brag about this too in about 10 years when it is the biggest thing ever. I'm like, oh yeah, Rich, I was on there. I was probably number 5 or 6, but I was there.
I appreciate that, and you tell Cuban pay his bills, okay?
That's
tell Cuban
right.
that.
You said it, not I. I didn't.
Oh, got it. Nope. I just threw that one out there. That's Damon John right here on Just Getting Started.
Hey, you. Are you subscribed to make sure that you see all these videos with free advice, chats, and business experts and content that will motivate and inspire you? If not, come on. Hit the subscribe button and commit. Below is your chance to level up and learn every single week. I'll see you in there.